Thank you very much. Nice to meet everybody, and special thank you to ARM for having this wonderful event where we all get to share a little bit about the work we're doing on behalf of the patients we can serve. So a little bit about AviadoBio. AviadoBio is a CNS gene therapy company focused both on drug and delivery. And I'll come back to that and tell you a little bit more about that as we go. Our mission is to develop and deliver transformative gene therapies for those living with neurological conditions, and we're starting this important effort in neurological conditions such as frontotemporal dementia, which most commonly is known as what Bruce Willis has just been diagnosed with, as well as ALS. A little bit of background on the company. So the company had 3 scientific founders, with the main scientific founder being Professor Chris Shaw. Chris is a neurologist, neuroscientist who has been treating forms of dementia and ALS for over 30 years. And in his own words, the kind of impetus or inspiration behind the start of the company was to go out and really deliver on promises that he's been making, not only on individual patients, but generations of families since he's been practicing. And he's done everything from gene discovery to executing over 70 clinical trials, and really to date wanted to be part of the solution. So the company is only about 3 years old, started in September of 2019, and is a spin-out of Chris's lab at King's College London. Our focus on drug and delivery is all about direct delivery approaches and seeing how we can best maximize biodistribution to both the brain and the spinal cord by taking a very direct delivery approach. To date, we've raised a little shy of $100 million in USD. We have a syndicate of 8 across both European and US-based investors, and we're looking at our platforms for both gene supplementation, as in our lead program, as well as gene silencing, so knockdown in our pipeline. We have 5 programs overall. I'll tell you a bit more about that. Our lead program, and today is a huge hallmark moment for our lead program. We just announced the press release this morning that we've initiated our clinical trial called Aspire, which is AviadoBio, which is an AAV9 gene-based therapy focused on patients who have frontotemporal dementia in a monogenic form. So they have a mutation in their GRN gene. And today we have kicked off this trial in Europe, and then we'll be doing subsequently in the US. We received orphan designation in both the EU and the US to date, and we've had really good engagements overall with 8 European countries, plus the UK as well as the US. So we're very excited to mark this day as the start of being able to hopefully one day treat patients with frontotemporal dementia with this particular genetic mutation. Obviously a lot to prove, but we're on our way. The company is London-based, globally focused, so we have about 60 people overall across both the US and the UK. And obviously we're building out as needed, focused on advancing our programs most importantly. We all know the main challenge in treating CNS disease is being able to cross the blood-brain barrier and do this in a way that really strikes the right balance between maximal therapeutic benefit and at the same time managing the safety profile. We've seen a lot of great therapeutics fail just in trying to do this, where they're being delivered systemically, which you can do in some cases and not in others, and not being able to get that right balance. And so everything we do, every investment we make, every research and development decision we make is all focused, again, not only on the therapeutic, but on the delivery and the direct delivery approach. We think about delivery in 3 ways. The first one is around the actual constructs themselves and making sure they're optimized, targeted, efficient, and neuronal specific where applicable. Second area is on the actual routes of administration and being able to, again, to look at very direct delivery approaches, and I'll show you how that breaks down in our pipeline in a second. And then, of course, the third area is really around the expertise and the capabilities. We have a team of neurosurgeons, neurologists within the company who have really built these capabilities and have now proven across preclinical and, again, well on our way into the clinic, with today as the start of that. This is just an overview of our pipeline. We have 5 programs in development. Obviously, the most advanced one is AviadoBio, which is our progranulin program, and this is being delivered intrathalmically, so intraparenchymal, direct into the brain, but specifically through the thalamus. And we chose the thalamus because we see the thalamus as the central kind of sensory relay hub to the brain, and while frontotemporal dementia starts focally, it becomes a global disease as it progresses. And so being able to find a way to be very targeted and efficient and deliver the therapeutic that can not only hit the frontal lobe, but also provide full biodistribution across all the cortical regions. And then our pipeline is focused on ALS, also known as motor neuron disease. And here we're looking at progranulin ALS, SOD1, ataxin-2, as well as C9orf. And so we have programs obviously a bit earlier in the discovery phase. And in that particular area, we're looking at a sub-peel delivery approach, which we have exclusive rights to across CNS gene therapy. A little bit about progranulin and why we've chosen it as a target. First of all, it affects about 100,000 patients. Today, this is only US and kind of top EU markets. The monogenic form that we're studying it in is about 10% of all of FTD, and affects, and about 30 to 50% of that is familial, so meaning a known family member. It is really a debilitating disease, so it starts a little bit different or unconventional to other forms of dementia where you may think start cognitively. This affects more behavioral, so people who, maybe were nice people all of a sudden become rude or never drank and become alcoholics, or just all of a sudden their behavior becomes widely different than they used to be. So their family members, unfortunately and very sadly, describes them as unrecognizable. They're not the people they used to be. As the disease progresses, obviously it affects cognitive levels. It also affects mobility in every part of your body, and people can die. The references on this slide are 6 to 12 years, even 5 to 7 years literature represents as well. So it's a very debilitating disease, very sad, and to date there are no treatments in this space at all. There's a lot we know about it. We know that when you're a healthy individual, you have levels of progranulin in your body. When you have FTD with progranulin mutation, you have about 30 to 50% of those levels. And we know when you have this deficiency, you have an accumulation in TDP43, which is what causes the neurodegeneration. So our program here is a gene supplement program. We're looking to restore the levels of progranulin to as close to normal as humanly possible, and to be able to mitigate, hopefully, the disease overall, but certainly to stop the further progression of the disease depending on when the patient is treated. There's a lot we know about it. You have good natural history data, you have registries, so it's tractable in a sense of us being able to learn and use the data that we have in hand to actually study these patients as we go. And it is a very fast-moving form of dementia. It is actually the most common form of dementia in people under the age of 60. I've met 30-year-olds, 35-year-olds, 40-year-olds. It's really very sad to see how quickly their lives can change. We've to date, obviously, to get into kicking off the clinical trial today, we have a very robust preclinical package. So we've looked at in studies across mice, sheep, and NHPs, which are regulatory enabling studies in both tox and biodistribution. And obviously, the package was robust enough to get us into the clinic starting today. It is a hub and spoke type clinical trial. So as you can imagine, it's a neurosurgical approach. So you have your surgical centers, you have your neurology centers who are treating the patients. You even could have your referring in neurologists who are part of this equation as well. And so again, we're starting this. We have 8 countries in Europe where we filed for a CTA. To date, we have we'll be starting the trials in Poland as the surgical site, as well as Spain, as well as other countries all across Europe, and then subsequently going into the US. A little bit about the study. It's an open-label dose-escalating trial, small denominator. We think anywhere between 6 to 9 patients. Obviously, that will be dependent on the dose and how we do in treating patients as we go forward and what we see and how many patients we need at each dose. Patients' eligibility between the ages of 30 to 75, and these will be more mild to moderate in nature as far as disease progression. We'll be looking at a number of endpoints. It's a phase 1/2 study. Obviously, the primary endpoint is safety, but we'll be obviously measuring all endpoints with a 4.5-year follow-up as we go, where we can hopefully also see some functional and efficacy type benefits for patients. It's a stereotactic delivery. Those of you who are familiar with the ClearPoint delivery system, it's an MRI-guided procedure. It's commonly used today in certainly CNS gene therapy, most commonly. And so it's an already registered device both in Europe and the US, so it's well understood. A little bit about ALS and where we are to date. If you don't know that much about ALS, if you can knock down ataxin-2, you can actually treat 97% of ALS. So while we're looking at 4 different targets, We believe the holy grail of these targets is certainly ataxin-2, not only in ALS, but also has much broader utility in other disease areas, even FTD as an example. And so we do have a discovery program here. We have key data readouts coming this year, proof of concept in vivo, and we hope to be able to get into regulatory enabling studies next year and potentially into the clinic as early as 2025. It is also well understood disease biology. Obviously, we have a recent advancement, most recently with the approval of tofersen, which is wonderful for patients and certainly de-risks this program clinically because we know we can knock this down. We know, with regards to, that's in SOD1, but we know with regards to, treating the disease, you can show some really favorable knockdown with antisense, et cetera. In these programs, again, we're looking at a sub-peel delivery approach, so also a novel delivery. Sub-peel, so the peel membrane in the spinal cord is almost like saran wrap. It's meant to protect the spinal cord from anything foreign, and this sub-peel delivery approach consists of not only a technology, but a proprietary needle, as well as a procedure. And we have exclusive rights across CNS gene therapy. We actually licensed this from a group locally here at UCSD, Martin Masala, who was the inventor of the sub-peel delivery approach. And basically, what we know, right, the problem we need to solve for is trying to move away, especially in adult patients where you need to find the right, again, balance of therapeutic benefit and managing the safety profile. So we know when you deliver, IV or intrathecal, you have a lot of systemic exposure that can, while it can get there, you have to use very high doses of drug, and you usually get the toxicities that we've seen in the failures around the space today. So by doing the sub-peel, we will also, again, staying with our targeted delivery approach, go direct into the spinal cord. We lift the dura, you infuse, and you see really nice, or we've seen really nice to date, biodistribution across the entire spinal cord. So for diseases like ALS, which you have a lot of spinal cord involvement, we feel that this delivery approach will really make the difference for patients, and again, providing that therapeutic benefit while managing the safety profile. This is just a little picture of the kind of platform as well as the needle and where we are. We are open to partnering, so we'll be using this sub-peel delivery approach in programs of our own interest, but we're also open to sub-licensing non-competitive programs with other companies. So we've been having a lot of discussions around that to date. So in summary, we're well on our way. Again, CNS gene therapy company focused very much on drug and delivery, and really both gene supplementation as well as gene silencing knockdown. And we've started this effort today with our first trial starting in FTD GRN. Any growing company is only as good as the amazing team behind it, and so we have a team of experts, again, 60 people within the company today. And I'm really proud to say that every one of from our founders all the way through to the C-suite, our lab teams, et cetera, has worked in gene therapy in some form across multiple organs, many, of course, in CNS, across academia and industry. So I feel like this really has built a great foundation to make such tremendous progress in just a couple of years. So with that, I thank you for listening. I'm happy to take any questions later on, and nice to meet all of you.